One of the challenges of doing this show during the course of the Stanley Cup playoffs is things can get dated really quickly. We try to work around that with a little bit of serious talk with what is happening on that particular night, but also some stories and some intel around the National Hockey League. Did that certainly the other day in our conversation with John Forsland. And today's another good one, John, with Steve Valiquette.
There's the one thing, and I fear I repeat myself every time Steve comes on, is that I am not an analytics-based person. But what I find with Steve, and I learned this from listening to him on MSG Network and on some of the radio hits he does across the country, is that he makes goaltending and the science of goaltending very understandable to the layman. And that's a real art. So that people who don't play the position, that don't understand the technical aspect of the position, reverse VH means nothing to me. VH means nothing to me. The simple stuff I understand.
What about pad stack?
Well, two-pad stack, that's different. Two pad stack and paddle down are different. I mean, those are.
You're right. Everybody that listens to Steve in this episode will walk away with you're a defenseman, whether you've never played the game before, whether you're a high level player. You'll feel like you understand goaltending, and there's no save selection references in this conversation.
I understand it a bit more. I don't think any of us understand it to the realm of what an NHLer goes through or what a guy like Steve teaches. But I do think that there's a real eye-opening aspect to how he delivers the message, and it's fun. It's fun to listen to understand and look at what a guy like Jakob Dobish does and what makes him so good. Frederik Andersen, Carter Hart. What the Wood brothers have gone through in Denver. Those are fascinating storylines that Steve has the ability to allow the common fan to feel a little more intelligent about the position. Because, it's either stop the puck or don't for most people. Why can't he stop the puck? Stop the puck! And the
players usually go by and go, just stop the puck.
Right. Well,
don't try to play the puck. Don't try to be the chirpy guy. Just stop the puck.
Well, and the other aspect, I think that it's the intangibles that Steve deals with, the mental aspect of the position, how to build confidence in a goaltender. When a goaltender has confidence, when he loses confidence. And let's face it, there is no more position emotionally in the game of hockey than being a goaltender. And if you can manage those emotions better, you have a better chance to be good.
I have a question for you. I'm scared to ask Steve, so I'm going to hold off and give it to you at the end of our conversation. And if it goes well, you can pass it along to Valiquette, but I'm too nervous to bring it up to him.
So hold on. Okay. So Steve makes you nervous?
Yeah.
Who makes you more nervous, me or Steve?
Oh, you for sure.
Well, so sure. Then why would?
But I'm used to you yelling at me. I still think that Steve and I get along. I know that you don't like me.
I don't even yell at you.
Where you speak firmly to me. Steve Valiquette's coming up, the Dean of Goaltending on 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon.
NHL TV is now on DAZN. Hockey lives here.
Here we go.
Watch every game from every team. The best players in the world. And the coldest plays on ice. Watch up to 4 games at once for the ultimate NHL experience. Sign up now at DAZN.
We pumped his tires. He's our favorite guest because he takes us so deep into this position and teaches us about goaltending. And let's break things down in the Stanley Cup playoffs with Steve Valiquette. With us, works with the New York Rangers and obviously ClearSight Analytics. Carter Hart is in. What's impressed you the most about his run through the first 3 rounds?
I think it's the mental fortitude, Darren. I think it's being able to put everything aside. As athletes, we talk about compartmentalizing and knowing what he went through off the ice, being able to still play goal at the level that we all anticipated he was going to play at, talent-wise, skill-wise, when he came into the NHL. I remember watching him as a junior and saying, this is the next Carey Price. And seeing him play at the level that he's playing at now, it's a little unique to me too, because of the Brian's gear. He doesn't look like he has the same look based on his gear. When he was wearing Trues, to me, it looked like he was a goalie that was either when he was in CCM or True, it looked like the standard cookie cutter goalie. And I mean that in the most glorious way, that he does everything correct. And by technique, he looked like he was always in the middle of the net. Right now, it's a different look, but it's the same skill set. If I was going to go through the 4 goalies from this round, I thought that Wedgwood looked the most lost, and that's fair to say. And I thought Dobish has really been the most enthusiastic. And for skill level and for talent level, I think Carter Hart has shown us that he's the best at being able to get to middle of the net, get there in a technically sound way, and then come out of it and be acrobatic. And I think that's the one area that he's definitely improved on, is being able to move out of first and second save.
I'm curious about this equipment thing. If you're a basketball player, but if you change sneakers, you change sneakers. Mm-hmm. If you're a goalie and you change equipment, how does that change your approach on the ice?
I have to say it this way. I'll just lean on my own experience. I wore Coho for the first 5 years of my career, and I didn't get called up. And I wanted to give everybody a different look. I wanted everybody to look at me and see a different goalie. And my equipment does represent a different way for me to expand my size in the crease. Whether I choose a different graphic or a different company, I think it makes me look different, a different look. And I needed a fresh look. I switched to Bauer. I got called up. I look at him wearing Brian's and I'm like, it doesn't look like the same goalie to me. He looks different. And I think maybe he was going for that, just a rebrand.
He went all white. Does that make a difference?
That makes a difference. It does. And I went back and forth on this. I'm sure you're familiar from working with Woodley and in goal. And you must have heard this a number of times where you heard it from, excuse me, I'm getting a phone call, decline. You used to hear it from Ian Clark, where he required to have white in the goalie's pads. Okay, I'm working with my sports psychologist. I'm 27. I'm stuck in the minors. And she says, I need to wear all red because it attracts the viewer's eye. I go to all red. I team MVP. I led the league in save percentage, goals against. That was my final year in the American Hockey League. And then I went from the KHL because of that year, and then the NHL. So there is a thing that we believe in, and I always wanted to wear a lot of red in my gear after that because it does attract the human eye. There is a reason why when you're driving down the highway and a lot of billboards have red in it, you're attracted to see it.
You mentioned Jakob Dobish being the most enthusiastic. The one place where he seems to have had a great deal of success is on breakaways, where I think he's only allowed 1 goal on a breakaway, and the breakaway might even be an argument, and that was the Eric Robinson shot, I think in Game 3. Mm-hmm. But he's been almost flawless on breakaways.
Yeah.
How are they? How are they screwing this up? Why are they trying to deke and not shoot?
I think that he's sucking them into the deke. And I think the best way to do that is to really come out far and challenge. And if you look at the pattern to the way that he actually controls his pace backwards, his gap, he starts backing up when the puck carrier crosses the top of the circle. And when you do that, you're really influencing the shooter to believe they could have the pace to get around you. And if you press pause again, and when the player crosses what I call the decision spot, which is the bottom of the hash marks, he's always in the white ice. He's got his heels at the top of the crease and he's in the white ice, which is still a very aggressive position to control that gap. And now you believe as a shooter for a second time, you believe you can get around him. And he's really good at laying out and being long. He's tough to beat around his skates. And I think he is sucking them into the belief that he can get beat around him, and he's not. How would you change it up? You'd quick shoot it. And what that is to me is as soon as you get over the top of the circle line, you surprise him with an elevated shot. It has to be elevated because there's still vertical angle there. If you get to below the hash, then it's a shot that's under the glove, under the blocker. And ultimately, every player that is on a breakaway, if you have the opportunity to cross from one side of the ice to the other, you have to take that opportunity when it's there.
He's emotional. Do you like that?
I like it for him because it works for him. And I think, Daren, that's what we're always trying to figure out. I liked to play pissed off with a chip on my shoulder. Even if it wasn't there, I'd create one. And I know that some goalies like to play relaxed. I remember Jim Ramsey, who is now the trainer for the Montreal Canadiens, when he was with us with the Rangers, he came back after the Olympics and he said, you know, I wish Hank was a little more like Brodeur. Brodeur put a hot pack on one side, a hot pack on the other side, a cup of coffee, stretch, go out, gold medal. Hank's jumping around. He's wasting all this energy. He's doing all this extra curriculars before the game begins. And, you know, I talked to Rammer about that. And I said, you know what? It's just what makes him tick. You know, that's the only way Hank can play. You couldn't talk to him on game day. I was the same way. The guys used to call me Game Day Gary, because I was so much different on the non-game days versus the game days. And I think that's just what's working for him. I tried to be like Brodeur. I tried playing poker in the back of the bus on the way to an AHL game. I got lit for 7. Guess what? I never played poker again. You know, like, and that's what the minors is for all the young players. You're trying to figure out what makes you tick. He likes to engage in vertical, language minus the barrier and all that. He's trying to get in everybody's face and get excited. And I think that just elevates his level. You know, I think that a lot of goalies, you're either going to be the Mike Tyson, where you're going to bite somebody's ear off, or you're going to be Muhammad Ali, float like a butterfly and sting like a bee and play loose.
Okay, so you allowed 7, but did you win the poker game?
I'm just telling you guys, I tried everything to be the relaxed guy. I tried. It never worked. And that's how I became Game Day Gary.
It is funny how coaches or commentators will look at the fiery person and say they got to control their emotions and keep it in check. But they never say to the calm person, we need more jam. We need more zip out of them. I wonder why that is.
You know, I think the best coaches that I played for, guys, left the goalies alone. When I played for Ryan McGill, I don't know if we spoke all year, but I loved playing for Ryan McGill. You know, we had great meetings when we had them, but he stayed out of my way. And I think that most goalies will tell you there's no need to talk to the head coach or the assistant coach at all during the season. You've got your goaltending coach, and that's all that you really need for support.
What about teammates during the game?
I can't say that I had a lot of dialogue during games. I can't say that I ever did. And players knew to stay away from the goaltender. In the locker room, I sat next to Henrik. Nobody came near us. You know, there was the odd time that Hank might spike his helmet in the middle of the locker room, but nobody said a word. You know,
Did you and Hank talk? Like when you and Hank?
No. So this is how Hank was for practice. And this is where he was really elite. I knew when I was putting the laces through the eye holes of my goalie skates to shut up because this guy didn't want to talk any longer. We're 10 minutes away from practice. He approached his practice with the same intensity that he did his games. Now, you could talk to him about the night before up until about the 10-minute mark before practice, but not after. He'd give you a hairy eyeball and you just be like, okay, man, I got it. All right, relax, you know? But
Mark LaForest, the great what a personality he was. Therese, we miss you. He always used to say that when he played with Ron Hextall, he would just intentionally move his gear around a little bit just to screw with them and just watch the fireworks go. Or Trevor Kidd would ask Ed Belfour, hey, I saw Marty Biron doing this with his equipment. You ever thought of that? And then it would just send Ed Belfour down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, dangerous. I wouldn't go there with Henrik. I knew it. No. I just knew it. It got to that point, and that's why we had a great relationship. We had a good understanding.
So we haven't had any discussion right now about Frederik Andersen, who, I think when you look at the question, what's the difference between the Carolina Hurricanes over the past few years and this year, I think goaltending has to be at the top of the list. The goaltending was always a flaw in this organization for a long time, Steve, but not with Freddie playing the way he's right now.
I don't know what's going to happen next, but here's what's happened in the past. The Rangers played against Carolina and eliminated them twice over the last 6 years. Of course, the Rangers haven't made the playoffs the last two, but I can remember going into game 6. It's the game that Chris Kreider has a hat trick, and he scored a low danger goal from below the goal line off of Freddie's back of leg. And the two teams I've covered the most over the last 20 years are my hometown Toronto Maple Leafs, as far as watching all the games I can ever get my eyeballs on. And of course, I cover the Rangers on MSG. I've seen a lot of Frederik Andersen. And the one thing that I can't get past is that he's allowed the most low danger goals over the last 3 years. Low danger goals are bad goals that go in less than 8% of the time. This playoff, this stat's going to rock you guys. A 22-6 record to the team that scores a low danger goal but doesn't allow one against in the same game. You have a 79% chance to win if you score a bad goal on them and your guy doesn't allow one. That has unraveled a lot of this playoff series that we've seen so far. And when the margins get really tight in the Stanley Cup final, if we anticipate it's going to be Carolina, Vegas, I'm going to be pretty fascinated to see how that falls in Freddie's favor or not. And if that's the deciding factor, Freddie is the perfect goalie technically. And physically, he is one of the most commanding goalies because of his size and really his girth. He looks very big in the net. But it's the third pillar, the most important pillar in the playoffs, that I still have a big question mark for him. And that's the mental side. And until he figures that part out, or let's just say he wins the Stanley Cup, well, that will get dismissed. But it's been a long career for him as a 37-year-old to be in the position that he's in right now and to have that past. The only way that I can look forward as an analyst is lean on past experience. And that's what I believe to be, true today. So we'll see.
As a student of the game, would you suggest there are other goalies that have done similar situations? Because the moment you described that and fighting through it, the name that came out for me was Corey Crawford. Mm-hmm. Is there somebody else out there that, in your experience, all the way back to when you were a kid, that there was a goaltender that had all this great technique, obviously has the size, but the mental side of the game once in a while let them down?
Not anybody that went on to be great. Not anybody that went on to be a top NHL goalie. Not anybody that I can think of that played in the NHL, period. When you get to that level, guys, I really can't even put my finger on why he has those moments. In the first round, do you remember the goal that was scored on Freddie from the half wall? It was just thrown into the net 5 hole. And, it's like he just has a sleepy moment. And sometimes in the intensity of the game, you have to talk yourself back into now here. I would just yell that in my head. I'd yell it. And sometimes you'd probably hear me at the other end just to snap back into it. Because when you're going through your junior hockey career, you start to establish certain guidelines or standards for yourself. And for instance, I remember playing for the Sudbury Wolves, and the first time I realized I was, good, or I'm getting pretty good at this, was guys just stopped scoring off the wing on me in practice. And I knew that if I had the middle of my skates at the top of my crease, I wasn't going to get beat. The only way I'd get beat is if I had a mental lapse. And I can recall my coach once bringing me in and wanting to talk about a low blocker goal that I gave up in a game off the wing. And I was like, look, I was trying to date this girl that was just walking in the building, and I got sidetracked, and I saw her sitting down. Guy comes down the wing, low blocker. Hey, my low blocker doesn't suck. I just got distracted for a second, and I'm trying to date this girl from high school. So like that, there's a thing there. It's not, and I think that to the layman, whenever they see a goal, the first thing they rely on is technique. What technically didn't he do properly? And there's a lot more to it than that.
Was Julie looking at you at all, though?
And I remember telling this girl about this after. I was like, hey, I got a lot of crap for this. Don't come in near the lower bowl. Sit up top.
The numbers that you cited, does that mean the weak goals are more impactful than the big saves?
That's the point. And then this is where I want to go next. And this is exciting to me to share this with you guys. The only playoff series where a team has won having fewer grade A scoring chances than their opponent was Montreal beating Tampa Bay. In every other playoff series victory we've seen so far this postseason, the team that's won has had more grade A chances than their opponent. So the grade A's, they even out over the course of a series with two really good goalies that are close. Again, before we start the playoffs, we've got the top 16 guys, and they allow the grade A chances 1 every 3. You can just bookmark it every night, 1 every 3. Carolina versus Montreal in game 4. Carolina has 9 grade A's. Montreal has 1. It's a 3-0 game with an empty netter. They go in 1 every 3. So just book it. And then it's the mid dangers that tend to be really the main qualifier or shifter. And you need your number 1 right now in the postseason to outperform the mid danger chances. They go in roughly 1 every 7.5 times. So if you can have a night where the mid danger shots, your goalie's better than league average, he usually wins out. But the determining factor of really swinging a game is if your guy allows the low danger and the other guy doesn't. And that's the reason why Colorado's out. Wedgwood allowed too many low dangers. And sometimes the low dangers may not look like a low danger to you, Daren, but like I can tell you the Eichel goal, if you remember that one where he comes in over the zone and he shoots it long side on Wedgwood.
Yeah. Right-handed shot,
long side. Can't happen. Yeah. All right. And again, I don't just wake up in the morning, guys, and say, low danger. No, it's the reason why is that everybody else in the league has stopped that at a very high rate over the last 10 years. That shot goes in less than 4% of the time. It's from outside the slot, clear-sighted, far side, righty. Can't happen. Yeah. And it fires me up, John. Fires me up.
Wedgwood looked like he thought it was going high glove, like his initial movement. I don't know whether you saw that or not, or whether I got
something. I got something to show you. Okay. I hope that for the viewers they could see this. That's where he was standing in his crease.
Wow. So he was taking. He was
off
the
by
overlap,
a foot.
right?
Off by a foot. He shouldn't even, it's not an overlap if it's from at the face-off dot. You're always at top of crease, right? You're not in between RVH or anything like that. This is what I'm coaching this week because the goalies are getting back on the ice with me in Bridgeport and everybody needs to find their net again after having a couple of months off. Now, what does that mean? It's Eichel coming into the zone. He's a righty. You always allow a righty to get a little bit ahead of you. Inches ahead. And then when he locks into what I call the ceremony before the shot, then you fall into angle and you're hugging the puck. And it's a routine save. Now, if it's a lefty coming down the right side, what a lefty does is they carry the puck and then they dance around it. Mm-hmm. So I always tell the goalies, let them dance. And then the angle just maintains. The only way the goalie allows a goal from out there is if they actually jump out of the way and allow the body to influence movement that they shouldn't have. So for those reasons, I was really shocked. And I want to tell you guys a quick story. So I'm in the KHL and I'm an 897. And I always said, if you get below 90, the phone stops ringing. At least that used to be the standard. It's shifted a little bit. I'm playing for Sergei Nemchinov. I win a few games at the end of the year, and I think I'll be okay for the next season because I have a contract, but I'm probably on the cusp of getting bought out based on performance. I have this big win and getting off the ice, and I go to give a high five to Sergei, and he says, "Too little, too late." And guys,
leaving the ice after the game?
Leaving the ice after the game. Now, hey, I was pissed off, but when I woke up the next day, guess what? He was right. It was too little, too late. Okay. And I can remember my first time seeing this happen in real time. It was, do you guys remember a player, Jason Bonsignor?
Oh, sure.
Remember that? Sure.
Fourth overall pick by the Oilers.
You got it. So I played with him in Sudbury, John. And when you're a young player, you're just really focused on your performance, of course. And Bonsignor came in and, you know, he could have been a 3-point per game player. He was Mario Lemieux when he tried. Yeah. And in practice, he finds out a week before our season ends, because we're not going to make the playoffs, that he's going to go to Cape Breton and play with the Oilers. Well, John, you should have seen him dominate for the next 5 days. Nobody touched the puck in practice. And I remember getting off the ice. And again, I'm younger, and the older guys are just pissed off. They're like, where was that all year? We could have used that. We would have made the playoffs. You know, so I'm having this flashback when I'm watching Mackenzie Blackwood play. He played amazing in game 4. Mm-hmm. Too little, too late. And where has that been? You know, and why is the goalie that's making $1.5 million playing over the guy that's making 5.25 over the next 5, including this year? So Colorado, they weren't getting that badly outplayed in games 1 and 2. But I think they lost confidence to a certain degree in what was happening in net.
Let's take a break. We'll come back with Steve Valiquette to pull on that thread as we continue on 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon.
With the NHL app, you can listen to every NHL game right from your phone. And with home and away broadcast feeds, you choose your way to listen.
And he scores!
Whether you're at work, at the gym, or stuck in traffic, the NHL app puts you right in the action all season long. Every team, every game, everywhere you go. Download the NHL app and never miss a moment.
So on the Blackwood angle, he's down 3-0, or they're down 3-0 in the series. He gets that start in game 4. Is that an easier start for a goaltender? Are you playing with house money?
It is. It is absolutely all day long for him to go in there, no pressure and play. And I heard Jared Bednar's comments on that topic before the game, that he spoke to him and said, look, we want to see the guy that played in San Jose that just played free. Just go out there. We're going to get, 47 shots on you back when we were Colorado against San Jose and pull out 2 goals. Well, that's the type of performance we need from you. And that's the type of performance they got. I think Colorado had 2 grade A chances in that game. It was 13-2, if I recall. So, I mean, it wasn't even close. Blackwood, and that's got to make everybody pretty frustrated because he's that talented, that skill. He's got that ability and just didn't perform at a high level that he could have and help the team.
So that leads to the question. And I think there are 2 teams that are worth discussing this with about tandem goaltending systems. Mm-hmm. Colorado, obviously, when you mention that you're banking on the guy that's making a quarter of the amount of money. Yeah. And Minnesota, where John Hines elected to go with Wallstead rather than Gustafsson. Does it make sense for either of those teams to continue the tandem system next year?
And I'd put Buffalo there too with Line and UPL.
But Buffalo's weird. Buffalo's weirder than that.
Lindy's talking about rolling back to 3 goalies.
Well, but I mean, and the guy that's supposed to be the future, the goalie of goaltending, still in the American League for Buffalo. So that's the stranger thing with there. But anyway, the point is that if I'm Gustafsson, and I'm seeing our team, who's supposed to be a Stanley Cup contender, and they're going with Wallstead instead of me, do I want to really be there?
Would I accept a trade? I would. And I would say this too. We both know, all 3 of us, we know that Minnesota's close and they're going for it. And if they make a push, would I be surprised if he was a part of a deal that went to Ottawa for Brady? I wouldn't be.
Go back to where he came. Let's go back where he came from.
They made that error in the first place. And look, I could tell you, there are definitely 6 or 7 teams that need goalies next year. And I think that any team that does have 2, like Minnesota does, 2 starters, they're going to get a lot of phone calls. No doubt about it. For sure they are.
And what about Colorado?
Colorado, what makes me nervous is that Blackwood just went missing for 2 months on a generationally good opportunity. I looked at, before that series began, guys, I gave Colorado a win in 5 odd. That's what I thought. And, I look silly saying it, but out of the generationally good teams we've seen over the last 10 years, Boston had that year, Tampa had that year, Florida had that year, Colorado had a previous, generational season too. But you see these teams that come through, and the only thing that didn't really add up for me with Colorado was their shooting percentage on the quality of the chances that they do get. And I don't think they made it hard enough on Carter Hart. I think that was a big part too, that just too linear of a game. One of the things that I've been looking a lot into, guys, is, I think it's sort of loose analysis to say we need more slot area shots because there's not enough context there. But what really matters when we're talking about the slot area is that you make it so challenging on the goalie that there's latency on every single shot that comes from the inside, meaning you pass the puck before the first part of that play develops, and make them start the movement process. Because if they're late, they won't arrive. And the third part that's really important outside of just getting the chance and then latency is executing with elevation. You need to elevate your grade A chances. If they're on the ice, look, I'm like you guys, I'm watching hockey every night. If I see a one-timer on a pass that comes from below the goal line to the slot, but the guy hammers it on the ice, that comes down significantly for me as far as quality of scoring chance. It's got to get off the ice. Like, I was looking at this for Carolina because we've seen them stumble in the Eastern Conference Final every year. And this year, 19 of their 33 grade A's are not elevated from the slot. That's just 57% of their shots, so they don't elevate. And that's why they don't finish at the rate in the past that they should, based on the quality of all the shots and chances they get. They get plenty. They get more than enough, but they don't finish because they don't get the puck up into areas. They have 0 grade A shots over the blocker, and they have 2 over the glove so far in that series. Like, that's just not enough.
If it ends up being Vegas and Carolina, from a goaltending perspective, who's the more dangerous team to face?
Well, I think that playing against Vegas for Carolina, the challenge is going to be the counterpunch. Carolina wants to go as fast as they can. Everybody leans in as soon as they feel they have possession in their D zone, and they jump. And they give up the most breakaways. And Freddie hasn't been great on breakaways in the postseason. He hasn't been great off the rush. He has one of the lower rush save percentages in the postseason, as good as his numbers are. The one area that he's been pretty bad is actually in the rush. And Vegas, very good off the rush, very good rush defense team. Their rush execution offensively is higher end. And even in the regular season before the coaching change, they had a top 5 defensive team, chances-wise. They do know how to insulate Carter Hart. They're allowing him to be a first-shot goalie. That's why we're talking about Carter Hart. He's got very clear lanes to play in. I think that Vegas has the upper hand, and I think we're going to put another ring on Daren's hand.
Oh, my God. This is going to be unbearable.
I love Steve.
See, Daren and I actually talked about this the other day.
No, let's get back to Steve.
No, because it's going to be 2 weeks of hell if that's the case with you and your jewelry. So many of the shots we've seen in this round of the playoffs are from the outside. Mm-hmm. Outside the dots. I mean, there are many slot shots. There aren't. Yeah, everybody's protecting that domain so heavily that. And because when you were talking about Frederik Andersen, the bad goal off the boards, that's the only shots he gets.
You're right. He hasn't been. He's playing in the easiest environment. That's a fact. That's a statistical fact. You know what it is, John? Again, you guys, I told you before we got on here, I'm on the ice every day right now. We run drills coming off the boards. And when the players are instructed from me before the drill begins to shoot to score, there are no rebounds that come to the slot because they're aiming for corners and it hits the elbow of the goalie, hits the post. They just don't come back out. I could run the same drill with the same 10 shots and have a player in the slot now waiting for rebounds and tell the shooters, and the goalies know this, that they're going to be shooting for rebounds now, but they're going to keep you honest if you cheat, and they're still going to shoot to score. So don't cheat. That's not the point. But you wouldn't believe how when you flip the mindset of the shooter from there, and the way I like to encourage them is that, hey, you're still a sniper if you know how to hit the proper part of the pad that produces a rebound to the slot. And on a 10-shot drill, 0 rebounds when they're shooting to score turns into 4, 5, and sometimes 6 rebounds when they're shooting to create for their teammates. And what players really start to realize is that shots from the dead angle, from the corners, those produce rebounds to the slot. And when they shoot from the flanks, a shot from the flank goes out on the other side as a rebound out of the flank. So they start to see where rebounds come from. I had this epiphany when I was watching The Last Dance, if you guys saw that, with Michael Jordan during COVID.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to me listening to Dennis Rodman explain how he would just sit in the gymnasium and watch them shoot. And depending on how the ball exited off their fingers, what part of the rim it was going to hit, and then he could recover it. And the whole episode, you see Rodman moving his hands around, and he's saying, rebound over here, this, rebound over here. And that's what I feel like when I'm on the ice. I can tell where these rebounds are going to go based on where the players are shooting it and how the players that are waiting for that rebound are positioning themselves properly on the ice. There hasn't been enough study done on where rebounds come from and where they end up. And there's a way that hockey can help themselves to score more. If you
so
really,
you're a big believer in pass off pads.
I am, John, but not from perimeter as much as it is from scoring area, because as soon as the puck carrier crosses the face-off dot, now you've got a goalie that's all in and just trying to get a piece. And that's when you fool the modern goaltender with a pass-off pad, when they believe the play for you as a shooter is you're shooting to score.
Carolina, think back to the start of the Stanley Cup playoffs, actually had a decision on who to play in goal. Like it's worked out, and Rod made the right choice, and the organization leaning into Freddie. But were you surprised that they went with Freddie over Brandon Bussi?
So I wasn't, because I leaned into the statistical analysis on it, and the worst performing goalie based on their environment from the Olympic break to the end of the season was Brandon Bussi. So they would have known internally he's not seeing it right now. He doesn't have his timing. He probably wasn't performing well when they did have practice. Typically, as Benoit Allaire, I'll bring Benny into this. As Benny would always say, if you have an A practice, a B practice, and an A practice, and an A practice, you're going to have an A game at 7:05 on Friday. And the coaches know it. So I'd imagine that he just wasn't doing very well in practice, and it bled into his game.
Well, the sign of a good interview is the flow of the conversation. My next question was about the retirement of Benoit Allaire.
Yeah.
I'm a believer, Steve, that we have to change some of our parameters and thought process of putting people in the Hall of Fame. Because I believe
you're speaking Woodley's language here.
Yep.
I believe that guys like Benoit Allaire deserve their time in the Hockey Hall of Fame for the contributions they have made to the toughest position in the sport over decades. And how many goaltenders has Benny put in a position to win a championship or go into the Hall of Fame?
We're going to put that nominee together. You and I touched on this on the last time we were speaking. And yes, we're going to put that nominee in, and we're going to try and float that. I want to share with you my first conversation with Benoit Allaire. You saw me reach over my left shoulder there. I grabbed a hockey puck. So this was Benny's first conversation with me. Vali, what is this? Okay. I was Benny, it's a puck. No, Vali. This is a question. You must provide the answer.
Really?
Yeah, it was the best. And he honestly, Daren, he had me hooked right on that moment. Yeah. I was like, I love this. This is amazing. What are we going to learn next?
Thought we were going to practice RVH.
No, it was so awesome because what he really brought to me personally was teaching me how to have the confidence to play a little bit deeper and still be able to make the first save. I thought I had to over challenge. And one thing that I don't think gets brought up often enough is that when Henrik came to his first training camp, he wasn't that good. He didn't have a good training camp. I know that because I received an email from Don Maloney about coming back. They weren't happy with Henrik's training camp. And I was offered a contract, but I couldn't leave Russia alive. They would have taken me out before trying to get back. So I remember talking.
That was before Too Little, Too Late, obviously.
that was we're talking about my first tour, and and then Henrik, he shared this with me years later. He's like, I was way out when I got to training camp. I was way out. I was playing when I played in Sweden. I played so much more aggressive. Henrik only became a deep goaltender in the first couple of weeks of his first NHL season behind Allaire's design. And that changed Henrik's career. He wouldn't have been even close to the goalie if he didn't listen to Benny. So if he wasn't coachable or if he didn't have the right coach.
I got to tell you, my son Jake, who's now in his mid-30s, went to Benny's camp in St. Eustache for 5 or 6 years. And the first day of camp, that question about what is this was the way camp started. even for the 12-year-olds.
That's terrific. Oh, that's terrific. So, John, I went to his camp one year and I had no problem going out there with the Quebec League goalies and all that just because I was playing in the NHL. And Benny said to me after, you know what the best part about you, Vali? There is no job too big and there is no job too small. And, I take that very literally because when I'm dragging a net on the ice in Bridgeport, Connecticut at 6 a.m., there's no job too big for me. And when I get on the ice or if I go on TV at night and I'm with Henrik Lundqvist, I can relate to why Benny thought that. And I'm very grateful that I had my time with him.
Well, he's a special man. He's a special man. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Why can't skaters, forwards, defensemen put the posts in before a practice or a game in men's league?
I've got one for you, Daren. This is a pet peeve of mine. I drill the pegs into the net for my goalie practices. And what I tell my goalies all the time when they ask why I do that, I say to them, if your goalie coach doesn't care about your pegs, he doesn't care about you.
Good for you.
Because there's nothing worse than watching a highlight on Instagram, seeing a goalie standing on the back of the net because the goalie coach doesn't have the proper pegs. Yes. Drives me nuts.
It's been very spiritual.
Yeah, exactly.
I've enjoyed this. So the puck that you grabbed, why is that puck up on your shelf?
It was my first win in New York with the Rangers at home. Yeah, it was. Yeah. I've got many pucks on this shelf.
So they got a puck bag down below. It's like they're overflowing.
I had 4 shutouts. Let's just say I've got 4 pucks. Are
they all labeled on the side, or you just happen to know?
No, these are just up. Yeah, I know which one's what. I actually have them in one of Henrik's gloves, which is the funniest thing. You guys knew this back in the day? Henrik signed this for me 20 years ago. This glove, okay, guys, it doesn't close. He used this glove that never closed. It was like he had 2 blockers and he would just force it forward. You know what? I want to finish a thought on this because you can look for it tonight when you look at Dobish. At the end of my season, Glenn Sather calls me in and he says, Vali, and he puts his feet up on his desk and he's looking at his golf clubs. And this is why Glenn was really good at delivering his message, because just doing that, it kind of captured my attention. And he goes, did you ever notice that when you get scored on a couple of times in the game, your glove falls behind your hip and it gets a little lower than your knee? And I was like, no, I haven't noticed that, Glenn. And he goes, well, you should look at some video this summer. All right. See you in training camp. End of meeting. Right.
Really?
Yep. So I go home, look at some video. I always listen to what Glenn was saying. He knew how to push my buttons. He was right, Darren. My glove would drop in games. It would sag. And this is one of the areas there I'm really proud of Dobish. You'll see that he does it when the pressure comes to the net and he backs in a little bit. He'll give his glove a shake and he'll press it forward, almost to wake it up. He'll just shake it and then get it forward. And he's got a very balanced stance and he's got a very big body illusion for that. And I've noticed that he's made a lot of big glove saves that have ended up in his glove based on positioning. And it's a good little thing to watch for when you're watching the game.
Why do guys use those gloves that don't close? Like Hank Cujo was the same way.
That's right. Cujo
John
was.
Gibson. John Gibson doesn't. His doesn't close a lot.
I didn't know that about
because
Gibson.
It covers more surface area.
But you still would. You'd think you'd want to close it.
You're right, John. That's what it was. He wanted to make this as big as possible.
Absolutely.
And there's an incredible amount of padding in here too. You'd never hurt your palm. It's got to be 3 inches thick of padding here. So yeah, when I was playing with Hank, I was like, man, listen, that's a legendary glove. Would you sign that for me? And that's my one piece of memorabilia from Henrik.
It's more like a lacrosse stick, lacrosse stick or a fronton. That's what they.
We used to call them two blocker Hank. Yep.
Considering he came in after Dan Blackburn, it works.
There you go.
Valley, this is great stuff. You're our favorite. The way you're able to
just for that, we're going to get rid of that Knicks hat, and we're going to get you the 100% hockey hat. That's what we're going to do.
Guys, I'm telling you, I listen to the show. I'm a fan of the show. I've been on the show. I think I'm a deserving recipient of a hat.
Absolutely.
Yes. And I'm disappointed John hasn't followed through on that.
We'll put it on John.
Well, yeah. I'm too worried about Darren getting another ring is obviously the issue. So
I don't know whether you're actually cheering for me or not. Like that's the sad part.
I got news for you. You ain't playing.
Hey, by the way, John, if the Rangers ever won a Stanley Cup and I got a ring because I was on the broadcast, I would wear it proudly. I have to tell you.
Yeah, I know. No, listen, if the Rangers won the Stanley Cup again, as a kid who in 1966 adopted the New York Rangers as his team for a little while, that would make me feel pretty darn good. So,
yeah.
They were when those days of Eddie Giacomin and Jill Villemure. Those were special days for me.
Well, for now, let's go Knicks.
Go Knicks. Cheers, Valley. Thanks, buddy.
All right, guys. Take care. I'll be listening.
Back on 100% Hockey with Millard and Shannon right after this.
Too little, too late.
NHL TV is now on DAZN. Hockey lives here.
Here we go.
Watch every game from every team. The best players in the world. And the coldest plays on ice. Watch up to 4 games at once for the ultimate NHL experience. Sign up now at DAZN.
Okay, here's my question that I was afraid to ask Steve. Do you think he'd let me go out and spend 2 or 3 days with him on the ice as a way to learn about the position from him?
Oh, of course he would.
Really?
And you would be right in there with the prep school kids. It'd be great. Yeah. You and the 16-year-olds.
Well, the prep school guys and I had the same maturity.
No, the prep school guys are far more mature.
Sure.
I mean, you would certainly fit in with that group, but
I would just love to be on the ice and watch and observe that kind of thing. It would be
I can't believe you haven't asked him before.
Well, I was afraid. You know what? Truly, I was a little afraid of rejection.
Well, based on that, I don't know how you had a date with your wife.
Well, yeah. Well, it's been 20 years. I was slightly more confident and
so more confident as a husband.
Aggressive too. She was the more aggressive person.
So more confident as a husband than you were as a goaltender.
I know that says a lot about my goaltending, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does actually. It does. And by the way, I now do you have 2 Stanley Cup rings already, or just one? You have 1 Stanley Cup ring.
Just one. That's why I can hear you in the other ear.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Patrick.
I do have one. I'll show it to you one day. George McPhee, Kelly McCrimmon, and Bill Foley were very generous to include us in the 2023 celebration with the Stanley Cup rings. One of my greatest thrills was taking it home and letting my dad show off to his friends, and we go out for breakfast, or we took it to my mom's burial site. Like, it was just watching my dad with it was the coolest thing ever. Yeah.
I can understand that. That's one of the things, it's funny, for the longest time, rings weren't a big part of what the NHL did with the Stanley Cup. The bigger thing was having your name engraved on the Stanley Cup, and now you're allowed 52 names on the cup if you win. But like other sports where rings have become so important, to be able to have that memento that you have as your own, as opposed to having to go to the Hall of Fame and see the names on the cup. I
know I didn't play.
Cool.
Broadcasters didn't play, but they include us as part of the organization. If I ever want another one, I might take it to the halfway tree in Manitoba between Brandon and Winnipeg and get a picture with it at the halfway tree.
Well, if you do that, I think you should arrange to do it with Kelly. You and Kelly.
Well, he knows where the halfway tree is.
I know, yeah, but he would have the same answer if you say, "Meet me at the halfway tree," and he would say, "There's not a chance I'm meeting you at the halfway tree. I'm a little busy on the farm right now."
Yeah, unless he's on his way back to Winnipeg to catch a flight.
Yeah, that's right.
We got one more game tonight. It's the only real dated part of this podcast. Montreal against Carolina, trying to stay alive. I called the gentleman sweep.
Yes, you did.
Are you more on my side of it right now?
Yeah. I mean, Montreal has the ability to win, but Carolina.
Empty.
Yeah, and how can you blame them? I mean, after 18 games that they have played, it's that's something to be said. That's a difficult journey, and you learn the price to get to championships and how important it is to win series quickly. And now we made so much of Carolina with the 12-day rest. Well, now it's paying off. Now it's paying off. So, you win a series, win it quickly. And Vegas is going to be in a similar situation if the series starts on Tuesday or series starts on Thursday, because they've had some rest. And it will help them as they prepare for the Stanley Cup final.
Looking forward to it. 100% Hockey continues into the championship series of the National Hockey League. The Stanley Cup Final 2026 is right around the corner. We'll talk to you next time with John Shannon and Daren Millard on 100% Hockey. Get that hat. Go send that hat over to Steve.
Valiquette will get his hat, but don't forget, thumbs up, hit the like button,
Heck of an endorsement from Steve. He listens all the time, so everybody else should as well.
Yes. Why aren't you listening? Well, but you are listening if we're talking.
Share this so everybody else can listen.
Share.
We'll talk to you next time.
Share.